So I'm very happy that we have Anne Lee here, and I want to start with this question, Anne. If you were going to give the supervisors some advice on how to use your very useful framework in your book, what would that be?
Well, it's kind of you to say it's useful, and in some ways I would avoid giving any advice. But I can see 5 ways in which it could be used. And the first way, and possibly the most important for general use, is to use it as a problem-solving tool. So to prompt different ways of thinking about how to approach the kinds of issues that might arise when you're supervising students. The second thing that's really important is to use it flexibly and not to get stuck in any one of the approaches, because as soon as we get stuck, then the disadvantages of that approach become much more prominent. I think a third use for it is to share and discuss it with co-supervisors, because naturally we will fall into the kind of approaches that we're most comfortable with. And if other supervisors have other approaches that we can blend in, that can make a very strong supervisory team, providing we both understand what it is we're doing. The fourth use, which is really fundamental, of course, is to use it to understand students' expectations, because sometimes they just want to know if they're on target and if they're on time. Other times they might want to know if their argument is strong enough. Other times they might just want friendship in what can be a very lonely endeavour. Doesn't mean that we have to respond to all of these ourselves, but it does mean that it helps if we understand what lies behind some of their questions to us. And then perhaps the fifth use I would highlight is for us to assess our own practice as supervisors. One of the things that supervisors often say to me is, how do I know whether I'm a good enough supervisor? Well, there are many ways of answering that question, but one way of answering it is to say, have I tried sufficient range of approaches? Because if I have, and maybe if nothing's working, then maybe I've still done some good enough work. I would hope that doesn't happen. I would hope that many of the approaches will be very fruitful, but it's a way of assessing our practice and saying, okay, we've tried.